Be sure to follow my Twitch over at twitch.tv/Daltonix. Thank you. With the final shape releasing a couple weeks ago, I figured it was about time to do our video going over the top meta pick weapons in the current sandbox. Overall, the meta hasn't really changed a whole lot in terms of weaponry, if I'm being honest with you, between prior to the DLC and now. But with the new DLC, we did get some new guns and some changes to old guns. So the list has changed up a little bit. Now, this list isn't in any particular order. Gun 1 and Gun 15, for the most part, are around the same strength, depending on what it is. I don't think there's any particular gun that's so stupidly broken that you need to use it, but all 15 of these guns, especially used on particular maps that will, benefit their range, depending on what it is, such as an SMG on close range, scout rifle on further range, will be super, super strong. Now, keep in mind, this list is my opinion, so let me know down in the comments if you think I missed anything, but without further ado, let's get into it. And our first gun on this list is Igneous Hammer. You get this from the Trials of Osiris vendor, Saint 14. And unfortunately, Bungie did take this one out of the normal loot pool, so you cannot get an adept one of this currently, but you can still get a normal one, and it's still super strong. This is a 120 RPM hand cannon with crazy range and just stupidly easy recoil. One of the best 120s in the game. Unfortunately, you can't get an adept version right now because Bungie took it out of the loot pool for whatever reason, but you can still focus it, like I said, at Saint 14, and this thing has some crazy perks on it. In the first column, you're going to have things such as heal clip, rapid hit, keep away, or fragile focus. Personally, I feel keep away is the best one, but depends on the preference of player. And in the second column, there's only really one that you're really going to want to go for that makes Igneous so broken, and that's Precision Instrument. Precision Instrument makes it pretty much so Igneous can two-head one body any Resilience Guardian, which is stupidly broken. But if they ever do nerf that, Moving Target or Eye of the Storm is fantastic as well. Not really much to say about Igneous, just one of the strongest weapons in the game. Normally I put it at the end of these videos, but I figured I'd just put it right up front just to get it out of the way, just because it's just so good. If you don't have a good Igneous, just go focus one. Get into Trials until you get one. This thing is super, super strong. And the second weapon on this list is Dead Man's Tale. You currently get this one from the Presage exotic mission. You have to wait till it's up on rotation, so you might need to wait a week or two, but it is definitely worth the wait. This is a craftable exotic, so it does have random rolls on it, but this is an exotic that Bungie just likes to kind of keep in the meta and then take it out of the meta. They just always buff it, and then they nerf it, then they buff it again, and then it just kind of goes up and down. So it's always in and out of the meta, so it's always good to have a good one of these on standby for whenever it comes into play. This 120 RPM scout rifle has some crazy range, but the big thing that makes it so strong compared to other scout rifles is the hipfire that it gets. With the catalyst, it can have some pretty crazy accuracy with the hipfire, and it now fires at 140 RPM, making it kind of like a mini 140 hand cannon. And overall, this thing is great. The hipfire, they made it a lot more consistent than it was prior to the fact. Not original Dead Man's Tale by any means, where you could hipfire people at 80 meters and it was fine. But I would say anybody who's 20, 25 meters is pretty consistent hipfire now with how they buffed it. And overall, this thing is fantastic. The perk pool is great on it as well. You got things like Moving Target and Rapid Hit that are fantastic neutral game perks. And then it's always good to have a Vorpal DMT in your back pocket. Vorpal DMT is one of the best ways to take out supers. It just does so much damage from so much range. If I have a DMT with Vorpal on, I will typically challenge any roaming super, and you win a lot of the time. Not really much to say about DMT that's that bad. Obviously, it's better on mouse and keyboard than it is controller, but I've heard that it is pretty good on controller nowadays as well. Definitely recommend getting one, or if you have one in your vault, giving it a shot again, because this thing feels so good. The next gun on our list is the exotic auto rifle Khvostov. This is a newcomer because it came with the new DLC. The way you get this one is by completing the Final Shape campaign, and then you got an exotic quest line that you need to follow. I'm just going to link Aztecross's video down below if you want to know how to get this thing, because I'm not going to sit here and explain it, because it is a long, tedious quest line. Now, what makes this exotic auto rifle so good is it's a 600 RPM, which is already a really good archetype, giving it a 0.8 second time to kill, but the exotic perk is what really makes this thing so strong. Every 7 bullets, it will have a bullet that will ricochet, and this bullet actually does a little bonus damage, which actually brings its 0.8 second time to kill down to a 0.7. The only real downside to this auto rifle is its range. Its range is a little lacking at 47, but as long as you play some closer ranges, it's not too bad. And another big thing that a lot of people aren't talking about on this thing is the fact that it has shoot to loot on it. Not a lot of people value shoot to loot that much, but in the current meta where special ammo is just dropping on the ground and it's a little hard to get, shoot to loot is very, very strong. It also makes it so you can pick up orbs, which are fantastic because orbs will actually buff this thing's ricochet rounds to be even stronger, and it just turns this thing into a menace. This thing absolutely shreds. Though it is very tedious to get through the quest line, it is definitely worth it. This thing was actually number 2 in Trials kills last weekend on Bannerfall, which is kind of crazy seeing as that map is a little bit bigger. To have an auto rifle go that crazy, I'm sure we're going to be seeing this thing in the Trials meta for a good while until Bungie does something about it. Definitely recommend, especially if you're an auto rifle enjoyer, going out there and getting Khvostov. Just real quick before we get into the next weapon, if you are enjoying the video, please remember to like and subscribe, as it does help out with the channel a lot. Thank you so much. On to the next weapon. Next up on our list is Ace of Spades. This is a 140 RPM hand cannon, and you get it currently from the exotic kiosk in between the vaults and the tower. And this thing has pretty much everything you'd ever want for a hand cannon. It has 85 range, which is crazy for a 140, making it have 35 meters of damage drop off. So tons and tons of range. With Memento Mori active, after you get a kill, it will give it a 30% damage bonus, which makes it essentially so you're running around with infinite kill clip and making it so you can 2-head 1 body most Guardians, which is super strong on a hand cannon. It has third eye on it, so you can always have your radar up. Firefly is great for splash damage, especially with Memento Mori. It will do bonus damage with the Catalyst. This thing is just a monster. The only downside is you can't use your special weapon when you're using it, but if you're good at playing ranges and just backing up and playing your primary, this thing is one of the strongest picks in the entire game. Ace of Spades is super strong, always has been, probably always will be. So if you're ever going to main a gun, honestly, Ace of Spades is the gun to main. It is just so good in pretty much every situation that you'd ever want to use it. But yeah, Ace pretty much just does anything you'd ever want. Definitely go get one. Not really much to say here. Next up on our list is the Elsie's Rifle. You currently get this one from the Onslaught playlist. I'm sure if you were grinding before the DLC, you probably have a good one of these. But nonetheless, if you don't, go farm some Onslaught. And this thing is a 340 RPM high-impact pulse rifle, and 340s are some of the strongest weapons we have in this game, having the crazy range that they do and the blazing fast time to kill of 0.67 seconds if you hit a 2-burst. They're just so strong. And the perk pool on this thing is fantastic. Having in the first column, you will have Zen Moment or Keep Away. I think Zen Moment's probably better, but both are fantastic. And then in the second column, you have some lethality perks with Kill Clip and Desperado, and then a great consistency perk with Head Seeker. Can't really go wrong with either one. Depends on what you're looking for. Personally, I think for trials or 3v3 game modes, use Head Seeker, and then in 6v6, Kill Clip or Desperado. This thing is stupidly strong, like I said, having some pretty crazy range on it, and being super stable. It's essentially just a legendary version of the exotic pulse rifle, no time to explain, making it just feel super buttery smooth. And then with things such as Zen Moment, as I said, whenever you hit some shots, it will make it so you don't really flinch as much, just because Zen Moment is such a powerful perk. There's nothing really bad to say about this pulse rifle. Obviously can struggle a little bit if people get in close range. It is a pulse rifle still, but any long range to mid ranges, you are going to be running over anybody that gets into a gunfight with you with this thing. I love the Elsie's Rifle, just super, super good. Next up on our list is Red Death Reformed. This is an exotic pulse rifle firing at 340 RPM, so another high impact frame, which is great. You get this exotic pulse rifle from the season's pass. You get it from the first rank if you bought the season, or you get it from rank 40 if you're a free-to-play player. And this exotic pulse rifle is fantastic. It's a high impact pulse rifle, so it kills at 0.67 seconds. And it has 85 range, which is ridiculous, making its range go up to 38 meters. For a high impact pulse rifle, that's pretty crazy. This exotic, whenever you get an elim, it will cure you, and if you reload after you get that elim, it will cure your teammates, keeping you and your teammates topped off after a 1v1. But the real thing that makes this weapon so good is its exotic trait. Whenever you deal damage with this weapon, it will increase the handling, take reduced flinch, and increase your movement speed, which is super, super strong. And one thing I honestly missed initially that I didn't even know until recording this video is when you have reduced health, this weapon will do increased damage. Now, this isn't anything super crazy, but it can definitely help with your forgiveness. Most of the time with these high impact pulse rifles, if somebody is below 6 Rezil, you can 5-head 1 body, but most people nowadays, especially in the higher echelons of skill-based matchmaking, will typically run over 7 unless they're hunters. Sad face for hunters. If you run tier 7 or higher, it makes it so you have to 6-head them to get that optimal time to kill. But this trait actually will lower that threshold from the increased damage to being able to 5-head 1 body any resilience, depending on how low health you are. So that will come into play a bit, but for the most part, this exotic trait is just fantastic to lower your flinch and increase your strafe speed and all that. And this weapon actually will be getting a little bit stronger when we get access to the exotic catalyst halfway through the episode, making it so we will just get even more healing. Red Death is such a meta pick, and I expect it here to stay for a good while. Just a very strong pick, and very easy to get for most players. All you have to do is buy the season and you get it, or even just grind a little bit. So I highly recommend you give this one a try. And for our next gun, I'm actually going to pair two together because they're basically pretty much the same gun. But the first one is the Someday Shoddy. You get this from the Pale Heart. It's a precision frame shoddy, and it is craftable. So you just keep running around the Pale Heart, collecting engrams, and then you open engrams with the Ghost, and you'll eventually get the red borders you need to be able to craft this thing. And then the second gun that is pretty much the same is the Matador 64. This is another precision frame shoddy. This one has been the king of shotguns for a long time, but the Someday is actually very comparable to it, being pretty much the same. and actually getting in hand perks, so probably a little bit better, but they are both in different slots. The Matador you will get from Grasp of Avarice. I highly recommend whenever the week is up, just go farming the Ogre boss until you get a good one. In terms of perks, you're pretty much going to want the same thing. You're always going to want Threat Detector and Opening Shot on both these shotties. On Matador, you could settle for Perpetual Motion if you get that, but I highly recommend just going until you get a Threat Detector one. And then for Someday, like I said, it's craftable, so don't settle for anything else. Threat Detector is so strong just because the amount of stats that you get from somebody who's close to you. With a shotty, you're always going to have at least one person close to you, so you're always going to get that plus 25 to handling. And the big thing about Threat Detector that's so good as well is it also gives you a multiplier to your handling speed, making it so you can actually break the cap of 100 handling if for whatever reason you have that. But realistically, if you have 2 people close to you, you pretty much just get 100 handling for free. No reason to not have Threat Detector. It's just such a good perk. And then Opening Shot is just great for consistency. Not only does it give you range, which is super good, but the main thing is it will give you increased aim assist and that decreased cone size, just making it so you can actually map people with Opening Shot. Opening Shot is so broken for special weapons, and if it pretty much is a make or break perk. If a shotgun has it, it's really good. If a shotgun doesn't, it's not as good. So Threat Detector, Opening Shot for both these shotties, just the no-brainer pick. Next up on this list might be a surprise pick to some of you, but it is the Austringer. You currently get this from farming the Presage mission, aka the DMT mission, whenever it is up in rotation. But the thing that makes this hand cannon so good is its 1v1 capabilities. Though it lacks a little bit of its range, it makes up for it in its crazy high stability and its perk pool. For the perk pool, in the left column, we have things such as Eye of the Storm and Snapshot. Snapshot isn't typically the most preferred pick on most people's primaries, but I'm telling you, because this thing lacks a little bit of its handling, it is super, super good. I personally prefer it, but for most players, I would recommend Eye of the Storm. And then in the second column, the big thing that makes this thing so good is actually Zen Moment. Zen Moment is such a strong pick on hand cannons. Essentially, if you hit one bullet, it makes it so you don't really flinch that much anymore, and flinch is the biggest killer in 1v1 duels. With the high stability and Zen Moment, it just makes it so good. And if you're using Eye of the Storm as well, it makes it so when you get lower HP, it makes it all that much better for the dueling. And then Snapshot can make it so you can get the first shot in sometimes, just because you could play a lot more aggressive. It will make it so you can immediately scope in, helping again with the little lower handling that it has. But Austringer is just a 1v1 monster. I prefer this hand cannon over any other legendary hand cannon in the game right now, just because of the 1v1 capabilities. Other hand cannons can get Zen Moment, but Austringer just has insane stability compared to Midnight Coup and Better Devils that both have it on there as well. I really recommend, if you do have one just sitting around not being used, putting Zen Moment on it and Eye of the Storm or Snapshot and really giving it a try. Definitely one of the most fun and enjoyable shooting experiences you can get with a hand cannon right now. And the next pick is a 140 exotic hand cannon, Hawkmoon. You currently get this one from Xur whenever he's here on the weekend. It has some juice stats, having some crazy range stability and handling all at once. But the thing that makes this thing so good is the Paracausal perk that is on it. So essentially you hit hag shots and it will build up this stack, and the more stacks you have, the final bullet in the magazine will do more damage. If you have 6 to 7 stacks, it will one-shot Guardians to the head. If you have 7 stacks, it will one-shot them to the head or body. But the thing that makes this thing so strong, in my honest opinion, is the fact that you can build up to a 2-tap so easily. If you have 4 stacks or higher, you can actually 2-tap somebody. And there's no sound cue. With the 6 and 7 stacks, you get a caca noise, so people can kind of hear it coming if they're listening. But with the 2-tap, nobody can actually hear that coming. They don't know how many stacks you have, making it so you can 2-tap somebody is super strong with a 140 RPM hand cannon, essentially for free, just by hitting headshots. And for slower game modes, this is very strong, just because you can kind of just blink at people. A lot of times in higher skill-based matchmaking lobbies, when teams are fighting each other, they kind of just like will peek out, fire 1 or 2 bullets, and then they'll wait to heal. But with this, even if you fire 1 or 2 bullets and they're not paying attention to your stacks, you can just 1-tap them and they won't see it coming. This hand cannon also gets random rolls on it, so you can kind of pick and choose what you want. For the main trade, I would either recommend Moving Target or Eye of the Storm. Both are great for 1v1 dueling capabilities. Opening Shot is okay as well, but I think the other 2 perks are definitely better. But yeah, overall, Hawkmoon is one of the best feeling 1 in 40 hand cannons, and just super strong with that Paracausal perk. Next weapon on this list is Conditional Finality. This is an exotic shotgun that you get from the Root of Nightmares raid. You defeat Nezarec, and there's a chance that it will spawn, so get that out there and farm it if you still don't have it. Now, I bet you're a little bit surprised to see it on the list, because Well and Bubble were nerfed, and Conditional was the main counter to those supers, but it is still a fantastic shotgun in its own right. The fact that it has a set pellet spread, being the first shot being a triangle, and then the circle for the second shot, I think that pellet spread honestly is very, very good and causes it occasionally to map targets very consistently, as well as its exotic perk being able to cause solar ignitions with the second shot and and shatters with the first shot makes it so you get occasional double kills, like pretty frequently, if I'm being honest with you, for not really doing anything out of the ordinary. You're firing your shotgun into a group of enemies and you'll occasionally just nuke them all. This thing is just super good. Even though you don't really need it to counter well in bubble, it's still fantastic for killing other supers. If you hit that freeze on a super, you pretty much just win the fight, whether you melee them or follow up with another shot. It's just super, super good. Conditional isn't going anywhere. It's still very strong, and I still expect to see it all the time. Next up on the list is No Time to Explain. You get this one from the Beyond Light campaign, and this is another high-impact pulse rifle firing at 340 RPM. I think this one is the king of high-impact pulse rifles. It is just so, so good. The recoil is really good on mouse and keyboard, but I hear it's not too bad on controller as well. But the main thing that makes this gun so good is the exotic perk Time Slip. If you hit headshots, you'll build up a stack, and once you hit 10 stacks, it will spawn this little buddy next to you, and he will shoot at enemies, and this thing chunks. It is so, so good. It pretty much makes it so you will hit that 0.67 time to kill almost every single time. I am so confident challenging every single 1v1 I get into with Time Slip active, just because it is that strong. No Time makes the game just so easy. And like I said, it's definitely more of a mouse and keyboard pick. I know for controller players, it's good as well. Now, this next pick might be a little controversial, but the next weapon on my list is Rat King. This is an exotic sidearm that you currently get from the kiosk in the tower. And I don't know what Bungie did to this thing going into the new DLC. I don't know if it's a bug or what it is, but this thing has no recoil on it. I don't know what they changed about it, because I've used Rat King a fair amount and it's normally pretty jumpy, but now if you shoot it, it doesn't really go anywhere. It just kind of sits there. I don't know. Again, it might be a bug, but right now this thing is crazy. Now, Rat King doesn't have the most range by any means, but most sidearms don't. This thing clocks in about at 15 meters, but if somebody gets in range, you just shred them, being able to have an optimal time to kill of 0.6 seconds, which just is crazy. The thing that makes Rat King so good is anytime you reload after a kill, you will go invisible, and then with the exotic catalyst, that will trigger health regen. The exotic catalyst also gives it plus 20 to aim assist and recoil direction, just making it buttery smooth experience. There's not really much to say about Rat King other than this thing absolutely shreds. I love using Rat King, and I am a mouse and keyboard user. Mouse and keyboard traditionally doesn't have the greatest time with sidearms, just because the reticle friction on controller just makes sidearms really, really good. But if you're a controller player, I highly recommend you give Rat King a try. And low key, honestly, if you try with a few members of your fire team and get the Rat Pack perk going, it is actually crazy strong, and it always has been, if I'm being honest. Again, you need to get a little bit close with Rat King, but if you get in somebody's face with this thing, you can make some serious plays just with how much you could heal and going invisible and all that fun stuff. Rat King, very strong pick right now. Highly recommend going and giving it a try, and hopefully this isn't a bug, and hopefully it was just a buff that Bungie did, but I guess we'll wait and see to find out. The next weapon on our list is Rose. You currently get this from completing your placements in the competitive playlist, and then you can focus each week with Shaxx. Depending on what rank you are, you will be able to focus more or less, depending on if you're higher or lower. But the thing that makes this hand cannon so special is the fact that it's a lightweight frame. It is a 140 with lightweight, only one in the game. And lightweight is just such a strong frame because of the increased mobility it gets. It literally gives you plus 20 to your mobility stat, which for hunter players as well, that will affect your dodge cooldown. Now, granted, it will only give you this bonus when the weapon is in your hands, but still being able to get that extra stray speed and the extra mobility for hunters is fantastic. The perk pool, it doesn't disappoint as well. In the first column, you got moving target, slag shot, and rapid hit, which are all fantastic perks. I think slag shot is the best one there. And then the second column, you have Eye of the Storm, opening shot, and explosive payload. All great. I think Eye of the Storm or explosive payload, depending on which one you prefer, is definitely the better pick there. Nothing super flashy about Rose, just a great feeling hand cannon. Fires out cinder blocks like most hand cannons do, and with the grips, it adds a little extra base stats to it as well. The Summoner is the second last gun on our list, and this thing does not disappoint. You can currently get it from the Trials of Osiris playlist. You can get an Adept version on it, so the Adept mods can be beautiful to help out with your stat package, and the perks are fantastic as well. With Heal Clip, Zen Moment, and Dynamic Sway Reduction, you have a lot of fantastic perks in that first column. I think Zen Moment is the best. Personally, I think Zen Moment is one of the best perks in the game, so if it is available on a gun, I normally would take it. And then in the second column, you have things like Target Lock and Tap the Trigger that are great for consistency. And then if you're looking for killing perks, you have Kill Clip, Onslaught, and Golden Tricorn. I think they are all very, very good. Golden Tricorn and Kill Clip are very similar. Golden Tricorn lasts a little bit longer and does pretty much the same thing that Kill Clip does. Onslaught doesn't last very long, but definitely is the most lethal out of the perks, so it really depends on what you value. I would recommend one of the consistency perks being Target Lock or Tap the Trigger for Trials or 3v3, and then one of the killing perks for 6v6. Nothing really to say. This thing is very comparable to the Kvasov. Kvasov is more lethal and takes up your exotic slot, but you can get a lot more range on the Summoner, which means you can actually outduel Kvasovs as long as you stay out of their range. And also the Organ trait that drops the little Telesto bolts is very strong as well. Occasionally can get some chip damage and prevent players from getting reses in Trials of Osiris or any other res-based game mode. The Summoner is just a strong, consistent pick. Now, our last gun on this list is Shayura's Wrath. This is a 600 RPM SMG. You currently get it from the Trials of Osiris playlist. It was recently re-released back into the loot pool, so the Adept version is available to you whenever it is up for the weekend. And with the re-release of this gun, they actually refreshed the perks, which makes this gun even better. They did a fantastic job on the perk refresh, making this one of the best SMGs in the game, to making it even better, which is actually crazy. I didn't think they could do that. In the first column, it has Killing Wind, Keep Away, and Zen Moment, which are all fantastic perks. Personally, I love Killing Wind on my SMGs. It makes them just feel like you go God mode after you get a kill. But Keep Away and Zen Moment are both fantastic perks in their own right, so I look forward to trying them on this amazing SMG. And then in the second column, you have Tap the Trigger and Target Lock, which are great for consistency. Target Lock overall is still great on these SMGs, helping a little bit with your consistency, making it so you don't need to hit as many headshots by one, or even lowering the time to kill on lower resilience guardians, anybody who is 5 and below. And then for lethality perks, you have Kill Clip, which just helps overall just kill chaining. Overall, they made an already amazing SMG even better somehow. Like, I'm actually in awe with the perks that they put on this thing. I'm actually very concerned for when the Adept version releases. I'm also very excited for when the Adept version releases. This is definitely my favorite SMG in the game, so I definitely look forward to trying out the crazy perk combos that they put on this thing. And that is it. Those are my top picks for the current meta in Crucible right now. Let me know what you think. Did I miss anything? Did I hit it bang on? Or am I just dumb? Yeah, I'm sure you'll let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and you guys have a good rest of your day.